I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're delighted to speak with a thrilling author. His name is Richard Watkins. He has written a book called The Dead Mrs. McIntyre. He's plunging readers into the atmospheric depths of Victorian England, blending gothic elements with historical intricacies. The story, influenced by classics such as Henry James' The Turn of the Screw, offers a thrilling journey through mystery, societal expectations, and human perseverance. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Richard, thanks so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the big picture. Let's tell the folks at home the essence of your book, what it's about.
Sure. Well, it's about a fellow by the name of Henry in Victorian England, and his wife dies in childbirth, and the very helpful doctor who is tending his wife suggests that Henry goes to the countryside to recover from his grief. Whilst there in a little town called Heathfield in southern England, Henry starts seeing images of a girl, about a 15-year-old girl, quite pretty, and she has the same name as his wife. And he meets this girl in various circumstances, but he gets the idea that she's stalking him, and these visitations of her become violent. So Henry returns to London. He's a barrister, so he turns to his profession of the law. And he, during a very important law case, he gets rumors that his child might be still alive. Now, he never saw his wife in death. That was all taken care of for him. And he decides to follow these rumors and see if, in fact, he does still have a child. And these rumors take him into Scotland. And it's very much against the advice of friends that he should do this. But he goes on this adventure, seeking what might be his child that he thought was dead.
Very fascinating premise, that's for sure. Did I cut you off there? Were you saying something else?
No, I was right.
Okay. No, it's a very fascinating premise. Tell us a little bit about how The Turn of the Screw influenced your storytelling.
Now, that's a good point, because the Turn of the Screw is, I see it as being a ghost story, which is very difficult to fathom. So you don't really know if there's a ghost in there or not. It involves young children, and they think they're seeing things. So what I wanted to do was see if I could write a ghost story which is not a ghost story. So I'm not trying to do too much in the supernatural. I'm happy to have a gothic atmosphere to the book, but I don't really want to have an actual ghost happening. But the visitations of this young girl upon Henry while he's in Heathfield are very mysterious. And I think that people who would understand a bit of psychosis would understand that what Henry's going through is a series of psychotic episodes, and it comes from the grief that he suffered from the death of his wife, and in fact not seeing his wife in death. That's the point. He has no idea how to have closure on this, and so he goes into these episodes which turn quite violent.
It's a very original story. I know it was influenced a little bit by The Turn of the Screw, but your story is very unique in and of itself. What inspired it? How'd you come up with this great idea?
Having read The Turn of the Screw and having been, so doing some writing for quite some time, since I was a child, and being interested in mystery stories, I just thought I'd try writing something along this line. And the other thing I wanted to do was is to write it in the first person to see how far I could go with that, and that did seem to work. So I kept on going with it. It became a short story, or a novella. I put it to the book club at my work. they wanted to know what happened next. So I had to then write the second half of it. And then I got an actual professional editor involved, and she asked me to put the two parts together and write a bridge between them. So it became the novel that we know it is now.
What was it like writing a novel set in the Victorian era? Did you happen to know a lot about the era before you began writing, or is it something you had to research in order to make it feel authentic?
Well, a fair bit of research went into it. Quite interested in that period of history. my wife works in a museum which is very much centered on that era. So she's quite interested in the reign of Queen Victoria. I quite like stories set in that era, so I had a sort of familiarity with those years leading up to stories like Jack the Ripper and the Arthur Conan Doyle stories. They're set a little bit later. This story is set in 1860. But I knew a fair bit about the history, so the research was followed on from my basic knowledge.
Gotcha. Your novel touches upon women in the legal profession and the challenges they faced up until the year 1888 in England. Why did you feel it was important to have this intertwined with your theme?
Well, there's three court cases in the film. It's only in the book, and one is a fairly major court case. And I really wanted to bring a strong woman, female character into the book, and I wanted to have this exploring the idea that women should not be in the law at the time. And there's a fairly strong feeling, and of course, our hero Henry has the same attitude: women should not be in the law, and I wanted to have that sort of conflict happening within the book. And of course, it turns out that the woman who helps him in this particular case unlocks the key to that case, and he then acknowledges that she has helped him. And of course, women can work in the law and have something to contribute.
Absolutely. Your depictions of the psychotic episodes were fascinating, the ones suffered by Henry Jones. Did you research them? Tell us a little bit about portraying them in such a complex, way.
It's interesting. I didn't have a lot of research in that area. I just followed my feelings with regard to what would happen there. And the trick is that in all cases, Henry sees this girl when there is no one else around. Now, the one exception to that is in a church, which of course is filled with people. It's Christmas Eve. It's a Christmas Eve mass. He sees the girl, but then she joins him outside of the church when he runs out of the church quite disturbed, and he sees her and engages with her in the grounds of the churchyard where nobody else is around. So I wanted to have him and the girl interacting with no other witnesses.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your vision for this work as a movie. Have you thought about that at all?
Oh yes, I have thought about it as a movie. I think it would do quite well because it's got the gothic atmosphere to it. It's got the obviously the landscape of southern England, and then the landscapes of Scotland, and the Highlands and the snow and all that Henry has to go through to trek from one side of Scotland to the other. I think it would be quite cinematic with all of that, plus the drama of Henry's perseverance in trying to find his child.
I agree. I think it'd be a fascinating movie, from the psychotic episodes to the Victorian era being portrayed to the landscapes that you describe in the book. I think it would be great. So Hollywood, if you're listening, this is a book waiting to be made into a movie. Final word before we leave you today. Anything else you'd like our audience to know, Richard?
No, that's it. I think the important things are the the court cases, the role of women in the law
Yeah.
at that time, and the other historical references. I mean, I've got references to the American Civil War, which had just started at that time,
Yeah.
the death of Prince Albert, which also had a great impact on the population of England, and in fact on Henry. References also to the Crimean War, which happened just earlier before this story. So I like to pack a fair bit of historical references into the work.
Yeah, there's a lot to be learned in this book. There's a lot to be entertained by as well. It is called The Dead Mrs. McIntyre. It is written by Richard Watkins. It will plunge you into the depths of Victorian England, blending Gothic elements with historical intricacies. It is quite an amazing story with quite a few surprises. Richard, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much, Logan.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.